Oh, God. Okay, let's get into this, okay? Let's go. Welcome. My name is Vizeh. You may know me. I'm the Burnley guy, which you only know. So let's get into the Burnley takeover, what's happening, who they are, and why is it awful. Let's go. So, in the last day or two, if you're not aware, there's been articles have been posted by Sky Sports News, BBC Sport, about the potential takeover of a £200 million takeover by an Egyptian man. Involved in this deal is with a certain man called Chris Farnell. And if you are a man which especially looks deep into EFL clubs, that is a certain name which will send maybe a shiver down your spine. And there's a good reason why for that. So recently there's been some news about a takeover with Burnley Football Club. I've stayed quiet because I wanted to wait until it actually happened to do a video about it. This one is very different, very serious, and I can't stay quiet on this one, otherwise I think I may actually explode. So let's start off with the first takeover idea with a company, an American company called ALK Capital. This American-based company had some involvement and some interest in having a takeover with Burnley Football Club. They formed a new business location in Leeds, which is near Burnley, and that it looks like that was possible. From what I've seen from them, they look like they are involved in the sport of football. They've got some sort of interest in the sport of football. You can go a lot more deeper if you want to, but that's basically the main gist that you need to know, that these guys are interested, an American company, of taking over Burnley Football Club, because if you don't know, at Burnley, we don't have that much in terms of financial power. Our net worth of our chairman, which is Mike Garlick, has got 60 million, which is, may sound like a lot, but compared to what the football nowadays, especially Premier League, that's like change to the pockets of these multi-billionaire monarchs and capitalists that we're speaking of here. You know, we're competing with literal billionaires, and we've got 60 million. That's nothing in comparison. We are by far the poorest team in the Premier League in terms of our financial wealth, and it shows because we've only spent £1 million this entire summer. We cannot compete with wages. We cannot compete with transfer fees. The world of football and the way that it's going to nowadays, we cannot compete the way we are right now. We literally do not have the firepower, and it's got more and more obvious the more years goes by that we need to have a takeover if we still want to be a Premier League club. The only way we're staying up is purely by the absolute genius of Sean Dyche and by him making the absolute most of the resources that he has. So that is the context and the reality of why Burnley is interested in a takeover, because we cannot compete on this market with the way we currently are. And Mike Garlick, even though he's a Burnley fan, and even though people may say the club has outgrown him, I've always felt has had the club's best interest in heart. That the reason why we don't spend any money is because he's worried that we may become the next Bolton or the next Bury, and that we may end up going out of extinction. So I always thought that even though it's frustrating, I've always understood that he had the best interest in mind, even though it is hard to see that we are so far behind many teams. So that is the context. Now let's get into this situation and why it's very, very serious, and why I'm actually very terrified, because I can't see any good come out of this. I really can't. Let's start with the actual investor, which is Mohammed El Rashashi, the Egyptian man, entrepreneur, and then we'll get into Chris Farnell, which is the main piece of this puzzle here, the main piece of the chess set. So here is an article by Lancs Live, which is a newspaper based around Lancashire, Burnley area. So they put out, who is Mohammed El Rashashi, the Egyptian entrepreneur involved in Burnley FC takeover bid? Let's have a look at this man and what he's got behind him. Let's go. So, according to his LinkedIn profile, El Khashrashi is a strategic private equity director and is believed to have amassed his wealth as a food and leisure magnate in Egypt, basically making his wealth from the food and leisure industry. Okay, extensive international operations, financial and commercial knowledge, who has led and managed organizations in a variety of industries, is how he described himself. Nothing to do with football. Experience includes working with private equity investors and boards, improving performance and profitability with decisive change management and growth leadership. Okay, making money. Executive proficiency is demonstrated in formulating and implementing creative strategies and initiatives that produce major improvements in operational and earnings performance. So they make money, basically. That's what I guess these business people do, which is, of course, the main point of a business. That's the number one thing. So I'm not blaming him for that. He's also got a bachelor degree in business administration and management at the American University in Cairo, with a subsequent Master of Business Administration from the Madrid-based IE Business School. Business. Previous work experience includes roles as an assistant brand manager at Coca-Cola Egypt, a business and brand manager at American multinational goods company Procter & Gamble, and currently as a managing partner at Beta Infra. Okay, his main business venture is Think Food, which operates several restaurant chains around the United Arab Emirates. Nothing to do with football. Cash actually almost a year, but this is the first time their names has been appeared in the press with regards for the Turf Moor outfit. So that's basically the Oscar right there about who he is and what his previous background is. He's basically a guy who's made money from the food and leisure industry, and he's got a lot of business degrees and experience, which is great, I guess. But, like, it doesn't fill me much confidence that this guy is really interested in the football world. Like, why would this guy this guy's a restaurant chain in Dubai. I don't know why he's involved in being the main man to take over Premier League Football Club. However, that's not the main thing here. Main thing is this name here. This name right here, Chris Farnell. And this guy's the main reason why I've done this video, which people have been tweeting at me non-stop tweeting at me, non-stop asking me questions like, oh, I've been took over. Oh, I'm sure that I'm buzzing. I'm sure that you're happy. No. No, you don't know who this Chris Farnell guy is if you think this is a good thing. In the world of, like, who is like the number one worst guy to potentially take over your football club? This is number one. Like, this is the worst possible guy. The worst possible CV I've ever seen of anyone ever in football. Genuinely. Even this guy had involvement with Bury, which is the reason why they went down as well. This guy had involvement with that. Don't forget that. And mainly his involvement with Charlton and other clubs. So let's get stuck into this guy then, shall we? Chris Farnell. I'm going to be having a Charlton fan in this call who's directly involved with Charlton, who will be giving me his thoughts as a personal experience with what was it like having Chris Farnell at his football club. So it's not just me. It's not just me complaining and whining. I'm going to have a literal Charlton fan who is deep within the club, is a proper fan, he knows the ins and outs, and he's going to tell me his personal experience with having this guy involved in their football club. He's a sports lawyer, allegedly, but he is absolutely useless. There's this page here called the EFL.co.uk. This is a great website. It goes into all the EFL clubs that's going through some financial issues. Charlton, Wigan, Bury, Bolton, Blackpool, Leyton Orient and Macclesfield Town. And this guy has an involvement with Bury and also Charlton, who almost went into complete administration. They actually got threatened with expulsion, just like Bury did. And guess who was involved with that? This guy. This little slab of spam right here. Is that well known that he's even got his own website article on this website? He's got his own page just for Chris Farnell alone. Let's have a look at this guy, yeah? Having become a club lawyer at Bury FC shortly before the expulsion from the EFL, that's a good link. And Chris Farnell is now in the same position at Charlton Athletic, which, of course, he's no longer there anymore. Thank God for that. But now he's now interested in taking another club. He actually got a ban of taking over EFL clubs. I think that's now been lifted now for some reason. But he actually had a ban of taking over any clubs. Like, can you imagine a worse candidate than the guy that's literally had history of, like, ruining clubs and got banned taking over clubs? And now he's just the main guy involved in this. It's honestly disgraceful. Farnell, Bury and Bendito. Farnell has made a habit of trying to bring less than credible people to the forefront of football clubs. For example, he's bringing forward this Mohamed El Rashi guy who's well known in the food and leisure industry. At Bury, Farnell tried to push Gustavo Bendito, this guy right here, a pastor and director of a tiny Christian football club based in Lewisham, as the man who was going to save the club. At Charlton, both Tyrone Nima and Paul Elliott were brought to table by Farnell, which, if you don't know, we're going to go more into that later on with how that went down. Farnell and Solino. In 2014, Farnell was also involved with Solino as an advisor in the takeover of Leeds United, which, if you don't know, was a pretty part of their history, which they were in a lot of financial issue. At the time, Solino has 2 suspended convictions for fraud. You know, a great advisor involved with a guy who's got 2 convictions of fraud. Despite the takeover not being complete, Farnell called the then Leeds manager, Brian McDermott, and sacked him. McDermott was reinstated the following day and Farnell was ushered out of Ellen Road. So, Leeds United, he also tried to completely make an absolute mess out of that as well. And then Farnell charged with assault on his wife. So he's obviously a really nice human being. Farnell was charged with 1 count of assault after an incident at his family home in Leeds, during which his wife suffered a perforated eardrum. She claimed he charged me with his shoulder and pushed me onto the arm of the sofa, so I fell onto the seat. I then stood up and he came at me, still shouting, and he hit me on the side of the head. I don't know whether it was a punch or with an open hand. He was cleared after arguing that he did not lash on his wife, which for me, I mean, not just that he's just an absolute fucking moron, but he's also a wife beater as well. Allegedly, of course, allegedly. Apparently. Farnell accused of bullying in takeover deal. So with Swansea City, where she tried to take over them as well, he's been involved with a lot of clubs. Swansea, Leeds, Charlton, Bury. Amazing. Honestly, it's really incredible. Great CV. Steve Penny, a former Swansea City board member, said that he was bullied and intimidated into resigning his position when the football club was sold. Penny described how club lawyer Chris Farnell told him there would be implications if he refused to give up his director's position ahead of takeover. So it's obviously a really nice blog. This Chris Farnell guy. And if we go deep into what happened with Charlton, it gets even more messed up. Okay, boys, so we've got ourselves on the line here, a Charlton fan by the name of Jamie Botso. He has a YouTube channel called Red Vibe, and of course his socials is Jamie Botso YT. He will know a lot more the ins and outs of who this certain Chris Farnell guy is. I'm letting him speak because you guys may listen to me, you may hear me speak about these articles, but it makes it a lot more solidified if you can actually hear an actual fan has gone through having him at the helm of his club and what that did to their club. So, JB pal, the stage is yours, pal. Tell me, if you can put this guy in one word, what would it be with Chris Farnell?
One word. I'd say shady.
Shady. Okay, that's respectable.
Yeah. Okay. Before I start like just going off on one here and just like waffling, a lot of stuff happened right over like pretty much like over a year. I know my stuff, but if I get anything slightly wrong, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure this is all correct. Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
So obviously Charlton were owned by this Belgian businessman called Roland Duchâtelet. He took over us in 2014. Things started great, but then quite quickly, like we got relegations, our signings weren't great, and the relationship with the fans just fell apart. There were like loads of protests, obviously, and stuff, quite well documented. And he basically started trying to sell Charlton because it just wasn't working out. Suddenly, I think it was November last year, Charlton get taken over by a new consortium called ESI. So 65%, the majority shareholder is this guy called Nima. He's the guy based in the Middle East. He's supposedly got all the money. And the other 35% was these two guys, Matt Southall, Jonathan Heller, who would sort of run the club on a day-to-day basis. They're UK-based, right? So this is all going okay. Like, Charlton fans are just happy that something's changed. But after a little while, some shady stuff starts to come to light. Southall is allegedly spending Nima's money. As I said to you earlier, like he put this strange Instagram post out, Nima did, basically saying, and I quote, Southall spending all my money on Range Rovers and so there's like this civil war. It's all breaking down. This is where Chris Farnell gets involved. So Nima obviously wants to sell ESI because he's the majority shareholder, but he's kind of based in the Middle East, so he doesn't have time to do it. So he appoints Farnell as the lawyer to sort of sort everything out. And I think possibly he was a bit like ill-advised with who he should appoint as the lawyer to sort all this stuff out. So anyway, fine. He's appointed as the lawyer, and obviously Charlton fans at this point just want the takeover to happen again, or at least somebody to acquire ESI. But then at some point, Farnell becomes appointed as the director of ESI, which is like a bit weird. Like, it raised a few eyebrows. Why is the lawyer being appointed as a director? And the front man is a guy called Paul Elliott, right? I think, and this is where I'm not 100% sure on the detail, but I'm pretty sure that Mohammed El Kashashi was also involved as a member of this consortium, but it was fronted by Paul Elliott. And obviously, you've also got Farnell in the background, who is a director, right?
So within this entire absolute show at Charlton, with this, a bunch of people getting involved, and no one seems to have an actual idea about what they're doing. There's no money apparently anywhere. Do you know that this guy, Mohammed, is also being involved, not, I guess, officially, but was amongst the midst of, the board? Yeah, so
it was reported that he was, like, assumed to be a member of the consortium, and he was photographed at like one or two games during this period. So he was like at the stadium, and people did some digging and found out who he was. So that's how he was involved at this point.
Okay.
So obviously, like, at this point, like, we think Farnell's job as like lawyer is done, but as I said, like, he remains director of ESI. The fans do some digging, realize that Farnell's name cropped up in the whole Bury going under like fiasco that happened a little while back, and obviously Bury are no more, right?
Yeah,
So
that's the most like for me. Like that's just the number one thing. You see a guy who's been involved with Bury, instant red flag. Like that should be it.
yeah,
Like the fact that
yeah.
apparently these talks have been going on for a year, it blows my mind. So, what was the precise like involvement between Chris Farnell and Bury again? If you know more than me.
I think it was a very similar role. I think he was appointed as a lawyer to try and save them from going under. Obviously, that didn't go very well. And as you'll like find out by what his involvement at Charlton, it kind of seems like he just uses potentially, like allegedly, I should say, uses these clubs to kind of try and make a quick buck off them, like try and use the situation to get a payday, because obviously he's a lawyer, right? So he knows the law and he wants his payday. So I think that's kind of what Farnell's intentions seem to be.
I guess from like if you are really trying to look at it in a sort of like devil's advocate way, that maybe thinking that maybe this guy's just got himself in just two really bad situations and he just can't stop these morons around him. So
Yeah,
I guess
possible. It's possible.
then maybe he just keeps on getting himself in bad situations. Of course, there's many bad situations and many shady people that he's actually been clients with, which has also done dodgy things. So, like, it's not a good track record, but maybe he's just a really unlucky guy. You know, you never know. Maybe he's got good intention.
I mean, it's possible. It still could be possible. I have to say that as well. Like, he still could, acquire Burnley potentially. It still might go well, but all the signs are there. And not just one club, but multiple clubs that he is just like the common denominator as things going wrong, you know.
I do appreciate your words from the other side of things, and hopefully you guys can understand a bit more. I guess the word is a lot more seriously now how big this actually is and how bad this can go very easily. There you go. That is everything you need to know about Chris Farnell and his involvement with Charlton. You make your own mind up. This is serious. This is genuinely serious. I hope whatever happens, these guys don't get involved. And if they do, in fact, get involved and this takeover does happen, it's a roll of the dice. It's a roll of the dice. I genuinely think that. And that dice may be shady as well. So, give me your thoughts down below in the comments. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. And wish us luck, because my football club, which I know it has, maybe took for a fucking roller coaster ride, boys. So, yeah. Keep up to date. Go over on my Twitter. I'll be letting you guys know about what happens. And yeah, man. Wish us luck.